All right. Welcome, Greg Montie, to the Real Estate Success Podcast. Thanks for being here.
How you doing, Leland?
Doing well. Let's get started. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, and then we'll jump into kind of your story from there.
Well, pretty boring guy. I came down to Virginia in the Navy in 2002. I'm originally from a small podunk town outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan called Saline, town of about 6,000 people. Met my wife in 2005, I believe. Got married, 3 kids. Been doing real estate for about 3 years. Prior to real estate, I was in the car business for about 17 years. Actually, right up the street from here, I worked for Mercedes-Benz in Virginia Beach for probably 8 of those 17. Tie singer over in Hampton at that Mercedes store for a number of years. Did a little bit of financial planning with Edward Jones for a couple of years during the 2008 financial crisis, and
during the financial crisis.
During the financial crisis.
What a time to become a financial planner.
Well, they say when you start out, the difference between a box of pizza and a financial advisor in the beginning is a box of pizza can feed a family of 4. It was a very difficult time to be in the business, especially just starting.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine. That honestly sounds terrible to me. I think my goal on this podcast is to debunk the I'm boring. So for listeners, even when we reached out to say like, hey, would you like to be on our podcast? He was like, I don't know why you want me to be on the podcast. I'm very boring. I'm like, I don't think that your career says that. Okay, so you've been in real estate for 3 years.
2021. I started October 1st, 2021.
Okay. And before that, in a long career of sales along the way, your wife is also in real estate.
Yep.
But the thing about being here since 2021 in real estate is those have not been easy years. I feel like 2021, the real estate market was booming, but then interest rates went up, the market slowed. A lot of realtors either got out of the industry because they weren't making it or were really struggling. And somehow you have been a top producer every single year at about 20 million in sales every single year. So tell me about that. What made you say, let's go to real estate? Because it feels like you chose real estate in the same time you chose financial planning, like hard cycles of those fields, but you've really excelled. And not everybody can say that over the last handful of years.
Well, I got fired from my job at Mercedes March 31st of 2021. I thought it was a joke. I told the guy that fired me, I said, you're a day early for April Fools, because we had a very successful, I was the finance director for Mercedes. We had a very successful department for a number of years. Never got a reason why I got let go. But it was kind of bittersweet because that was actually the day my wife sold and closed on her first house after getting into real estate. So I had to hold that inside because I didn't want to deflate her winning, with her first sale. So I actually didn't tell my wife till it was either late that night or the next morning. I took a month off of work, didn't really know what I was going to do. A buddy of mine actually owns the brokerage I work for. I sold him cars at Mercedes for 15 years. So that's just a phenomenal guy, a guy named Randy Tappan. And so I called him because my wife started working. I'm like, Randy, should I get my real estate license? He's like, yeah. He's like, go do this, this, and this, and you get your real estate license. So I did it for a month and got my license, and was thinking of going full-time into it, but I'm like, you know what? Kelly just started out. Probably not a smart financial decision to have 2 full commission positions, especially this was my wife's kind of first job. She was a stay-home mom for 15 years. So I ended up taking a month off, and I went back into the car business. I went to a Volkswagen dealership in Chesapeake, did finance there for about 5 months. Did not enjoy it. It was not fun. I'm not going to say what dealership it was, but I remember driving the last month I was there, driving to work, looking for something to run into with my car so I could get an excuse of not going to work. And that's when I decided, hey, it's time to do something different. The joys left this. I don't want to go to work, dread going to work. So I told my wife, I said, hey, I'm going to get into real estate. I'm going to sell, 1-2 houses a month, just something to put a little bit of money in our pockets and, something to do. And it started, I sold my first month. I think I sold 3 houses, and it just, from there, it was an addiction. I mean, it's like, I can do this, there's nothing to be worried about. So it just started, I think from October to December, I sold 1.9 million, I think my first 3 months. And then my first full year, which was 2022, did 19.5-ish. I don't, when you're talking about the interest rates, and I know interest rates affect real estate and affect everything, but I do my best to block out the minutia. It's the
Mm,
same thing when I was in the car business. Like I said, did the finance in the car business, and people would, they're buying $100,000 Mercedes-Benz, and they're worried about the interest rate, whether it's 3 or 4%. It's like, bro, you're not buying an interest rate, you're buying a car. It's the same thing
mm,
with a house. You're not buying an interest rate, you're buying a house. We have to find something that solves the problem that you're in. So as far as success, which it doesn't really feel like success. I mean, I've been told it's success, but I mean, the average car salesman sells 10 cars a month.
mm,
So I'm like, if I'm not selling 10 houses a month, I'm just average.
mm,
So it's just, I guess, different mentality. Every morning I wake up broke. I mean,
mm,
that's the way I look at it. Is every morning I got to hustle, because every morning, if I'm not productive, I've got nothing in the bank. I got 3 kids, college, they're hungry,
mm.
they need to choose. So it's the same thing every morning. Every morning's a brand new day. Every month's a brand new month. Every year's a brand new year. So what I did the previous day or the previous year, the previous month doesn't matter.
Mm. I'm I'm struck by a few things you said. You know, like what crazy timing to be like, I got let go the day my wife had her first sale. Just like that inner turmoil of like, I have really bad news, but you're having a great day is just kind of a wild piece of that story. But also kind of that internal conflict of like, I'm struck that you still chose real estate because of what you said of like,
Mm-hmm.
two people in real estate, two self-employed people. I find we have, friends and clients and colleagues who are married couples who have a real estate team or who,
Mm-hmm.
are both in the field. But working with your spouse or both being self-employed is a really big risk. Like it's hard when the drought comes, the drought really comes. It's not like one of us has a really stable salary that's our base and,
So my wife had a very good had a very good first year, had second, third, fourth. I mean, she's done very well. She averages between $6 and $8 million a year. So she was able to provide the financial backing for us. Mercedes took very good care of me for the years I was there. So we had money in the bank. It's not that I was going out there living paycheck to paycheck when I jump into real estate. So I did have substance that was able to get me through um, the downtime. But luckily, there hasn't really been a downtime since I started, and I'm thankful for God for that. I'm one lucky guy, is all I can
mm,
say.
it's amazing. So I hear you saying, I'm just a lucky guy. I'm just out here doing this. But it is very impressive to just jump in and crush 19 million. And so, but I know that can look a lot of different ways from where you find clients to your process you take them through or, natural network versus marketing. Where are these people coming from?
So I have no sphere. Like I told you, I'm from Ann Arbor, Michigan. I didn't really know anybody when I got here other than the Navy guys 20 years ago. My wife's from here, so obviously her sphere goes to her. When I left Mercedes, I didn't take any numbers, names, nothing with me. I had 7 contacts in my phone that were from Mercedes. 6 of those contacts are real estate agents and brokers, so that was no help. Um, I started with another real estate team under the brokerage, and they gave me access to their dead deals in client pond.
Mm,
And that's what I started doing, was calling the client pond. I would make between 120 to 170 phone calls every single day,
wow.
for 4, 5, 6 hours a day. Then we started investing in Zillow. We started with a little bit, that grew up. Now it's what we spend is insane. Same with some of the other places, some pay at close, lead sources, realtor.com. There's been a lot of good partners to get us through that hump till we started having the repeats and the referrals come back. As far as my process is the same every single day. Every single day I get up, have my coffee, take my kids to school, and then get on the phones. I
Mm,
spend majority of the morning on the phone, the majority of the afternoon, probably average 60 to 65 outgoing phone calls a day,
wow.
which in my opinion isn't enough. I'd always like to make more, but you can only call people so many times before they start getting sick of you.
Hmm.
So my 99% of my business is phone work. Getting out in the
Really?
field and actually selling the house is a very small part. Now, I'm not selling houses on the phone because the way I grew up, especially in the car business, is you can't sell on the lot, you can't sell on the phone, you have to sell in front of somebody. So it's the caveat's getting it in front of somebody, but I mean, people look at sales as a bad word. I don't. I mean, I'm there.
Mhm.
I'm solving problems. That's what sales is to me, is solving the problem, finding solution for the individual that's looking for the house. Everybody's solution, everybody's problem is different. Um, is I mean, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
And so you're calling these either leads from like Zillow or
Mhm.
Realtor.com or from your client pond. And are you basically just saying like, are you interested in buying a new
No,
house? Or are you
never.
interested in selling your house?
Never.
Like, what is that? I'm just like, if I
So
received the phone call from Greg Montie.
it's relationship building. So, I mean, they know why I'm calling. When I say, hey, I'm with Cova Home Realty, they know I'm a real estate agent. They know
Mm,
the reason. I don't have to tell them.
yeah.
But what I can do is I can find out about them. I can learn about them. I can find out where their kids are going to school, what their hobbies are, and I can learn about them. I keep notes. So when I call them back in a week, 2 weeks, a month, I remember what we talked about last time because I got it in my notes. And that'll spur the conversation to build the rapport to pick up where we left off last time. Um, the more contacts you have, obviously, the better rapport you have with people. And that's the key, at least with my business, is building that relationship so that they trust me and
Hmm.
that we can work together and I can help solve their problems. Because nobody wants a stranger to help solve their problems. And
Totally.
someone once told me a long time ago is people buy from people they like.
Hmm.
So if they don't like you, they're not going to buy from you.
Totally. I agree with what you said that people think sales is a bad word, but it is really solving problems. And I feel like I hear that a lot from other entrepreneurs, from other business owners who are like, well, I just don't want to be salesy. I'm like, there's difference than in being like a slimy salesperson who's just out for your own interest and caring for someone and providing a solution. Like sales is a necessity. Like I could be the greatest realtor or the greatest, in my case, financial planner in the world. I could know more than any single person. But if nobody knows I'm here and nobody knows, and I don't know them, and we don't have the relationship, we don't have the rapport, I don't really know what's going on in their lives, I'm going to go out of business. I'm not going to have anybody to actually serve. So it's like you can have the greatest skill, but unless you know how to translate that to actually apply to someone and you have someone to apply that to, no one's actually going to benefit and you're going to go out of business. And so it's just necessary. And I do believe, like you said, most good sales are completely relationship based. It's like, it's why so many people love referrals. It's because at the heart of it, a referral is, you know, hey, I personally, like someone that knows me used this person and feels like, hey, this is, you should work with them. Like they know me, they know this other person, they trust that person. And so when I get I'm getting confused because I'm thinking people are referring to me, but if I'm referred to someone or someone says, hey, you should use this HVAC person, it's like, hey, this person that I trust trusts them.
Mm-hmm.
And so now there's an automatic built trust there, and I'm more likely to use their services because there's a relationship there that's pre-founded.
Oh, yeah. I mean, referrals are the best compliment that anybody can give you because that means you did a good job.
Yeah.
I mean, just that in a nutshell. Is if they didn't like you, if they didn't think you did a good job, you want to get the referrals. So that's that's the key to any business, especially for longevity and growing and so on and so forth. But you have to have that person first to get that referral from.
Yeah.
And that's what I strive for, is finding that initial person to give me the repeats and the referrals. I don't do traditional marketing. I'm not in print. I got a Facebook page, but I got someone that updates it. I don't know how to do that. But it's all relationship based, and it's getting tougher with the younger generation because they're more text. They text, they email. I want to talk to you on the phone. I want to hear your tone inflection. I want to hear your voice. I'm a highly sarcastic person, and if I do sarcasm through a text, it comes off wrong, and then I look like an asshole.
Yeah. Like,
if I do sarcasm in person, normally they get it,
Yeah.
and it doesn't go off, as bad.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it still goes off bad, but not as bad. So I mean, I get exactly what you're saying about referrals.
Well, at the end of the day, that being in person with someone, like they say, verbal communication is 10% of communication. There's so much other to a relationship between, like you said, voice inflection, body language. To really be able to sit with someone and build a relationship is to be able to be aware enough to know how to work those things. But if you're just over text or you're just over social media, it's hard. It's really. We had someone else on the podcast who a lot of their marketing is through social media, but they even were saying like the only way to do it is to actually show up completely authentically on social media, which is hard because that's not how social media works, right? Is like, and so um, I'm impressed though by just the grit to sit down and make so many phone calls. And, I mostly because I probably fall in the middle generation where I prefer in person, but I also hate picking up my phone. Right?
Nobody enjoys making calls.
Yeah. And I'm like, there's some serious discipline there. Where did you learn that kind of tactic strategy? Is that what your brokerage or your team lead was saying?
That was 2008 with Edward Jones. Edward Jones
Okay.
was big on door knocking on doors, which I will not do. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And phone calls. I mean, they used to throw us in a room in St. Louis with headsets on, and we'd make calls for 8 hours, just out of a list. I mean, that was their business model, was phone calls and door knocking.
I've heard that nowadays they have, like when you go to your training, they have like a whole warehouse with like fake doors that you like role play with. And I'm like, that is just next level. I cannot imagine someone knocking on my door and being like, "Let me manage your wealth."
That was a very tough 2 years, but I did pick up good things. I mean, every part of my journey has been, I picked up something.
How so? From military, did you go straight to Edward Jones to cars, or?
So I started in 2005. After Kelly and I got married, we were having our first baby, and Christmas was coming up, and I needed Christmas money. So it was a part-time job. I got a job at S&K Menswear, which has been out of business for a long time. It was over in Janice Shopping Center in Norfolk. So it was a part-time job. I don't even know, $10 an hour, $7 an hour, whatever minimum wage was back then. It was minimum wage plus commission. I was selling suits, which was difficult because I'm colorblind. So if you try to match colors, that's not my strong suit. But I did that for a couple months, and then a gentleman came into the S&K Menswear and bought some suits. He was a manager at a Nissan dealership in Western Branch, so he offered me a job part-time, and that's unheard of in the car business. Car business, I mean, again, it's changed so much over the years, but back in 2006, it was 80 hours a week. It was a grind.
Gosh.
I couldn't do 80 hours a week because I was still in the Navy. So I came in nights and weekends. I worked nights and weekends until I got out of the military in 2006. So probably about 4 or 5 months nights and weekends. And then in 2006, when I got out, I think it was August or October, something like that. I went full time. Did about a year, and I'm like, hey, I want to do something more than sell cars. I want to try this finance thing because I kind of like numbers, and I think it just seems like it'd be fun. So I went to the general manager of the dealership. He wanted to give me the promotion, so I'm like, okay, that's it. I quit. I don't want to do this. I took a personality test online. I got called by Edward Jones recruiter. That's when I went to Edward Jones. 2008, it was tough. So like I said, year and a half, 2 years with Edward Jones. I called the old general manager back up, said, hey, I'm thinking about getting back in the car business, but I'm only doing it if you send me to finance school. So I negotiated finance school, and he sent me to finance school. Did about 9 more months with that dealership. And then I was being nosy one day, and I looked in my boss's drawer and saw his pay plan, and he was making significantly more than me, but we were doing the same job. And again, I'm 23, 24, so I'm filled with piss and vinegar. So I went up to the new general manager at that time and said, hey, if you don't pay me the same as this guy because I'm doing more work, I quit. I'm going to go back to selling cars. He goes, you're never going to make as much money as you're making selling cars. So I took it as a challenge. I said, hey, I might not make as much money selling cars, but I'm not going to do it here regardless. So I packed my stuff up that night and left. Didn't know where I was going. Mad as hell, mad as a hornet.
How did that conversation go with your wife? Where it's like, "How was your day?" You're like, "Well, I quit."
Well, it was funny. So it was my day off that I quit on. I was home. I got a call from the director of variable ops for a local dealership here that's they sold. They're no longer around. It was a big franchise, though, a big group. And the director of variable ops calls me and told me I was being childish because I was demanding a pay raise. And I just took it the wrong way. I was grilling all day, had been drinking some beer. Probably wasn't a smart decision, but 23, 24, you don't really care. So I told my wife what I was going to do before I did it. So I drove back to that dealership that night after, I'd been drinking beer all day, and, I was pretty hopped up. Went in there, packed my office, and left. And then after I left, the next day I called a buddy of mine that was at the Mercedes store at Tysinger, and I said, hey, listen, I just quit my job, don't know where I'm going to go. Do you mind if I come sell cars for you? he says, yeah, sure, come on, sell cars. So I went over there first month at Mercedes. I think it's 18. I think it was 21 cars. We had 18 or 21 Mercedes, which was a store record. So I did that for 8 months, and they had a finance position open up. So they put me in that position. Did that for 3-4 years, and then I heard that another dealership was buying the Mercedes dealership here. So I called their president. He offered me a job, and then that's how I ended up over on this side. So that's kind of the car business slash Edward Jones in a nutshell.
Yeah. So started in the suit business,
Suit business.
moved into so Navy to suits to Edward Jones to cars. And then most recently, when you got fired from your most recent car dealership job, went to another, but just said the love for this is gone.
It's gone.
Switching it up, but kind of you have this muscle for sales. You've always been in sales.
You know, I mean, even before the Navy, I mean, this is going back a few years. I don't know if we're old enough to remember, but Office Max used to sell Sprint phones, which is now T-Mobile. And that was my first sales job, was selling Sprint phones at Office Max at 16, which my mother still has the original line from Sprint, my original phone number that I had. She's got obviously a different phone now, but the same phone number that I had
she kept
at 16 years old. In
just
Sprint.
the Nokia brick. Like still playing Snake on it. Man. And so when you look back on this whole kind of journey, because you jump into real estate, you've got clearly the muscle for sales is already really strong. Now we're translating it, and now you're just achieving what everyone else would look at and say is success. I hear you saying, I'm used to 10 transactions a month, so 3 a month is not my standard. We're still building towards that. But nobody would look at consistent $20 million year over year and say, he's doing all right. That's a top producing mark. And so when you look back at the whole journey, what surprised you the most about kind of sales, real estate, where you're at now?
That where I'm at now is considered success. I mean, I don't. I mean, every 15 days out of a 30-day month, I feel like I'm failing. It's just, it's my internal demons. Am I doing enough? So it's that's where the motivation comes from. I don't have financial motivations. I mean, I'm doing okay. I've been doing okay for a long time. It's more of the fear of failure is probably the motivating factor for me every morning.
And for you, what has been the low point?
With real estate, working with my wife, but it's also been the high point too.
So you guys are on the same team, same brokerage?
Same brokerage. We're different teams who run our own separate businesses.
Okay.
But we work in the same house.
Sure.
So I'm around my wife a lot. I love my wife. I mean, 20 years of marriage. She's an amazing woman that puts up with me when most people probably wouldn't. So a lot of forgiveness she has. But yeah, I mean, it ebbs and flows like any relationship. I mean, I've had transactions go the wrong way. I mean, that's just comes with the territory, unfortunately. Yeah. I've had situations where things have happened after the sale that aren't necessarily what I wanted to happen, and that's tough to get through. I try to help out clients when I can. I'm not a closing gift guy. I don't give closing gifts, but if there's an issue after the sale, I try to take care of it if I can, depending on the amount of the issue. I mean, some issues I can't take care of just because they're too much. Other issues I can, but I look at it as a kind of the old bell curve. So 10% of the people that buy a house with me, they're going to be unhappy, no matter what. Another 10% are going to be ecstatic and they're going to love me. I'm going to be the best things since sliced bread. And then I got that other 80% that are just, hey, he did a good job.
Yeah.
So that's kind of I guess the ebb and flow, where it goes up, it goes down. You have, good transactions, bad transactions. I just try to have more good than bad.
Mm-hmm. So you've alluded to this, the idea of like, I don't feel like I've achieved success, or, fear of failure. I don't know that it's enough. How would you this is a podcast about success, okay. But I do believe, if you ask anybody on the street, how do you define success? You're going to get a totally different answer from each person based on kind of their individual unique personality or desires. So for you,
I don't have a personal success goal. My success is going to be dictated by how my kids turn out, what they contribute, how they do in their lives, where they're at. I mean, it's, as far as what like I said, I don't have any financial, really, I'm okay. I don't like, hey, I need to have 10, $20 million. That's not a goal of mine. I
Mm,
don't need to drive a Mercedes. I drive a beat up pickup truck that I've had for 10 years. I wear clothes from Walmart. I mean, I don't care about that stuff. I want
mm,
my kids to have success in their lives, but it's not necessarily financial success for them either. I want them to just be happy. I want
mm,
them to enjoy what they do, and I want them to have the opportunity to do what they enjoy.
mm.
So that's how I would define success.
It's amazing. I I do find, especially working in finance, we tell anybody who wants to be a client, like if more money is your goal, if that's success to you is just being rich, you're gonna fire us. Because you're gonna fire pretty much any financial planner. Because if more money is your goal, you'll never have enough. Money should more merely be a tool in the tool belt to do what really drives success, which is relationships, time, your kids, your family.
Mhm.
If we can work towards that, then we can align this tool with your values and maybe get you somewhere. But money alone is never study after study after study, scripture after old proverb, you know, would always say, you'll never have enough money in it. It's never going to be what satisfies you. So I personally love that definition of, you know, my success will be my kids having opportunity to do what they love and seeing them turn out well. Well, I appreciate you giving us your time and, making the trek all the way here just to be on our podcast. So I appreciate you sharing your story and being here today.
Thank you.